Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Little bit of special video here. This is looking at the Airscale instrument panel upgrade for the HK Models Lancaster in 1/32 scale. If you look back over a couple of months ago, you'll see I did a review of this product, and you'll also realise that how impressed I was with this. It's a fantastic little set. And it is a massive improvement for the HK Models kit. The instrument panel is fine on the HK Models kit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. In fact, if the kit had supplied individual decals for the instruments, then I think it would have been a lot better. But unfortunately they didn't. And the other thing is, it's the actual instrument panel is not strictly accurate for a B Mk.I, but that gets into the realms of rivet counting, I guess. So basically you can come along and buy this. It's around about $18.95 in the UK, and it's from a company called Airscale, and they're an English company, very small, and they make a range of instruments, instrument panels, individual instruments, bezels, decals, all sorts of stuff, cockpit placards. Basically, if it's in a cockpit, they do it, pretty much. So have a look at their website, and airscale.co.uk, and see what you think. They also do a beautiful set which I've also reviewed for the 1/32 scale B24. So as with pretty much everything in the world of modelling, one thing I would suggest is really important with this is go through and read the manual before you start doing anything, because this is not like your normal, I've got the Edard set here, which I've also reviewed, where you cut that off, you stick that onto that, and then you sand all the detail off the instrument panel and you stick that onto the instrument panel. It's not that straightforward and simple, but the results, I don't know if you can see there, the results are quite astounding. So what I want to do is try and show you how I go about doing this, and I'll have to do it piece by piece. I'm not going to do any this is how I do this. It'll be this is how I did this. I can't start doing PE live on camera. It's bad enough gluing plastic parts together, let alone PE. So yeah, when you get this set, pick up the manual and read it through thoroughly. And also there is a little addendum in the set here. It's basically explaining that you need to be really careful when you put this decal onto the PE part, because there's a couple of location holes. Don't push the decal through the holes, basically. So I'm not going to do all of it together. I'm not going to pick on one particular part and then go from there. I'm going to do it in steps, as in like paint it black, apply the decals, start to laminate it, stuff like that. So what have I done so far? Well, what do we get in this set? We get our sheet of PE, which I'll show you in a moment. We get a lovely sheet of decals, which are very glossy and hardly any register, and yeah, very nice indeed. And they will be going onto the PE parts, and then you can either put a sheet of acetate over the top, which is supplied in the set, so you can put that over the top for your glassy bezel faces, or you can just stick the instrument panel straight on top of that and then put some clear varnish in, and that will replicate your clear bezel faces. Advantages and disadvantages: obviously you'll get a better bond if you just glue it all together without the acetate, because acetate doesn't tend to glue well with anything at all much, in my experience. But with the acetate you get a flat clear glass replica, well, flat clear replica of the glass that's on there. If you don't use the acetate, you get a better bond. You put the varnish in, but you always get that kind of radius beveled effect. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think I'm going to be trying the acetate route. So that's what we get in the set. Now I've made a start here, and you can see here I've removed all the levers and also the the gates, if you like, for the throttle levers. I've removed all them because they're going to remain silver. And what I've done, I've painted the photo etch parts. Now, ignore this bit here being cut out, that was done for another reason. So I've taken the levers from this corner, but the rest of the photo etch set is as it comes in the kit. And what I've done, I've taped it to this notepad, and then I've put some cocktail sticks behind it to hold it away, so that when I do any paint work, it doesn't capillary under and stick it to the paper. So what I've done here is degreased it with some carburetor cleaner, so it's degreased. I was going to rough it up a bit to give the paint a key, but I didn't want to lose any of the beautiful detail. You can see on the instrument panel here, if I can get it in the light, the detail is quite astounding. Also note here, there and there. First thing this tells you in the instructions is to remove any usable raised detail from the instrument panel. Well, those two little lugs there, those two little gauge parts, they're actually raised detail, so I've actually sliced them off and then glued them onto the instrument panel in the appropriate area. So once I degreased it, I went over with this, which is Mr. Metal Primer, which is a Mr. Hobby product. This stuff is lethal, it's awful, it stinks, and it's just, you really don't want to be breathing this in. And I'm not 100% convinced of its quality. I've never had really good success. I've used etch primers on car bodywork in you know, full-size real life, and they're amazing. This stuff, I'm not really sure if it does anything at all, but I was going to use car bodywork etch primer on this, but I felt I'd lose the sharpness of the detail on the photo etch parts. I have used it before with great success on normal photo etch, like if you've got, say, a wing flap set and it's a large set of PE, you can use that on there. The only trouble is with that now is I tend to solder all my PE rather than glue it, so it's best to spray it afterwards. So yeah, I went over with that first of all, metal primer, let that dry off for a couple of hours, and then I sprayed it with a flat black paint, a couple of thin coats, black acrylic, and obviously haven't worried about painting the back parts, but have gone around the edges because they'll be exposed. For example, when you stick the blind panel onto its backing and then you stick that onto here, you'll see the edges, so you need to make sure the edges are all painted. I'll have to go around it afterwards anyway, I should think, but you know, best just get it all done now. And what I've done then, I've gone over the whole thing with Tamiya X22 clear gloss with a thin coat. And the reason I've done that is because this was like a flat black, when I come to paint around these gauges in the yellows and reds and all that, if I use Vallejo watercolor, then because it's got this clear on it, I'll be able to just, using a wet brush, remove any excess paint that overspills or whatever, and it won't mark the black. If I just left it matte, it would kind of almost soak into the paint because a matte finish is sort of more porous. So it's got this gloss coat on there to protect it for doing that. And then what I've done, I've let it all go off, and then I've masked up these areas that are actually photo etched, and then put a heavier coat on here so I can guarantee really good adhesion for the decals to stick on. Because bear in mind, once you put that on, then you put a decal on there, and then you put that on, when you glue it together, you're going to be laminating onto your decal. It's not so important on that panel, but for instance on that one and the instrument panel, practically the whole panel, it's got a decal on it. So you need to make sure you've got really good adhesion between your decals and this panel to get the good lamination. But I'll show you how I hold it all together and then glue it. So that's all done now. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to go on and apply the decals while it's on this fret. And then I could have done it with it, take the parts off first and then apply them, but I'm going to do it this way purely because this is a great way of holding it. So I'll go on and put the decals on now. Let's see how I get on. Right, decals are on, as you can see here, and they're very nice indeed. In the instructions it tells you to look at the edges and also put the panels on top, see how they line up and everything. I can tell you that if you stick to the edges, and what I actually did, you can see I've removed these from the fret, and I've removed these parts as well. A lot's gone on since the last snippet. In fact, this is now being filmed after the next sort of few segments of the film. So so basically I found it easier to get these out of the way and then put the decals on, and really you need to get the fret off of the backing like I've done here, because the easiest way I find to line them up on the back is to line them up on the edges, is look at them from behind so you can see just how much of the actual decal is overlapping, and that's the easiest way to get it all right. This one here, I think I've got it slightly too far to the right, but this is the Navigators panel, so it's pretty much hidden sort of up in behind the cockpit seat anyway. So yeah, as you look in, the cockpit seat would be here and the canopy would be up here, so you're not really going to see it, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. Rather than risk destroying the decal, I decided to leave it where it was. I will say that's one of the things I realized with this one: don't use microset with these decals. They stick like, well, they just stick like a leech to glass. They're unbelievable. So don't use any microset, just use water, slide it on, position it, and don't push it down until you're in position. They just go down and stick. I don't know if it's because of the gloss paint or what. I did actually decide to paint them gloss black as well, as you can see here, as per the instructions. I didn't read that bit to start with, but anyway, it's done now. So so yeah, decals are on, everything's looking good. Let's get on and look at painting these instruments now. Okay, so I've got the panels painted and I've removed them for doing this painting because I thought it would make life a lot easier. And you can see this panel is overall black, but it's got those red rings around those 4 gauges. Easy way to do that is, once it's painted black, get a smallish brush. This is a, what's this? I don't know what it is. Oh, it's a 3.0. And just basically, I've done this with Vallejo watercolor. That way, if it goes wrong, you could just wash it off and start again. What I do is put a drop of paint on an upside down Tamiya jar, and then roll the brush in the paint so that the whole bristles are wet. You don't just want to get the tip wet, you want all the bristles wet, and try not to remove too much of the paint. And then what I do, if I can try and show you here, what I do is put the brush through the hole, yeah, almost all the way up to the ferrule, and just go around the edge like so. If you try and use the tip of the brush, what will happen is that the brush will come out of the hole and the paint will go everywhere. So carefully put the brush through the hole and then just go round once or twice, and then you can leave it to dry and put another lot on if you want. And what you end up with is that sort of even red ring all the way around. And when you offer that up to the panel, it does look quite effective. I've also done the engineer's panel here, and the way I did that, I sprayed it overall black, and then cut some very, very thin slithers of Tamiya tape, put it vertically down through them, then masked them top and bottom and did the yellow and the blue. And I think you'll agree that looks quite impressive. So that's that bit done. Okay, one other thing to note, the Airscale set doesn't contain any fuel cocks for the engineer's panel. I can show you here on the Edard set. You can see that Edard have made it all in one piece. You've got these 2 knobs here, which I'm not sure they're supposed to be red. I'll have a look. I think they might be actually, but they're not included in the set from Airscale. So what I'm going to do, at least I don't think they're included in the set. No, I thought they might have been on those little bits of fret I cut off. So if you look at the panel from the plastic kit, the knobs are on there. So what I've done, I've marked the centres, I've drilled them with a 0.6 hole, some 0.6 plastic rod through the back of these once they're out, and then sand the front flush, and In fact, even leave the plastic slightly shallow, and that'll give it a bit of a feature on the knob. And then put them in. So the best way to remove these, they're not very thick, so actually cutting them off with a saw is probably not a good idea. So I've drilled them through from the front, and then I've gone through from behind, and with this cutter, I've got a few of these sort of ball type cutters, I'm just going in from behind and pushing, and what will happen is the knob will pop off, because it would rather pop off than be cut. So you can see there that what's happening is it's bulging away. So I can just keep pushing like this, and this way you also keep the actual structure of the panel. You can see now, you can almost see light through that now. I think you can pick that up. It's so thin, so what I'll do is just keep going in like that, keep going either side, and eventually they're just going to pop out. And there we are. You can see they've started to break away. So just give them a little push. Yeah, take a little bit more off this side, I think. There we go. And there you can see they've come away and they're ready to just break off. So what I'll probably do is lift them up, glue some plastic rod into them, and then that'll at least give me something to hold on to. Okay, so there we go. That's those two glued onto those shafts, and they'll fit straight into the panel, the Airscale instrument panel, or engineer's panel should I say. And then on the engineer's panel, of course, we've got all the raised detail, which we need to lose. So I'm literally just going to cut most of this off and then sand it flat. The only bit on there really worth keeping would be the actual light which comes out on a fly lead, but you may as well make that from a piece of plastic rod. And there we go, that's that panel completely flat now. There's other work required on this, and I'm not really 100% sure if the panel should be raised away from this or in behind it, so I need to check my references. But just thinking about it while I was sanding this, I may end up having to cut this right off and start again. So there we go, that's the detail sanded off. So whether you're doing this or the Edard set, that's something you want to do. And just to finish off, to make sure it's flat, one of these, my favourites, these are the cheap Tesco's or the supermarket nail files. Just run over it, and that makes sure that all the edges are nice and square and everything's flat. And yeah, and if you really want to make sure, just magic marker, and then just sand away until the magic marker disappears, and that way you know you haven't got any underlying areas or low areas or whatever. And the fact that you're actually gluing a complete panel to the top of this really means that if it's not dead flat, it doesn't matter. You just don't want any big raised areas, that's all, pushing the edges away. You want it to look like it's part of the aircraft rather than a glued on piece of photo etch, you know. So just keep going there until all that pen disappears. You can see I've still got some there, so I must have it's probably a low spot, because it would be going quicker than that if it was a high spot. So there we go, lovely, job done. And here we are, there's those original knobs from the kit parts, and they're glued to some 0.6 plastic rod, as I said. And when I pull them through, you can see that they add a proper sort of three-dimensional look to the panel, and they're going to be painted silver. A couple of references I've seen have got them red, but on the whole I think they're silver. And they've got there's a decal here that goes on behind them, so yeah, they're going to look amazing. So that'll look lovely, and then that will fit over there, obviously with those pins cut off onto that panel like that. So Yeah, it's starting to take shape now. I can start getting some green paint on this cockpit soon. It's gonna start looking impressive. But that's not what this video is about. We're gonna get the Airscale instrument panel set done. You can see I've done a lot of work on the HK cockpit here. If you haven't seen my videos before, go and take a look. That's pretty much scratch built the seat. So there we go. Right, so we're back again. This is like 2 or 3 days later now. As you can see, I've sort of pretty much finished painting the engineer's panel there. Got the decals on the front, so it's sort of ready to assemble now. So we've got to look at how we're going to do this acetate. Now you don't have to use this. What you can do is just glue it together and then put a blob of varnish in, or you could give this a good coat of gloss varnish and then glue it together. But I'm going to use the acetate because it's part of the set, and I need to show you how to use the set. So I'm just sort of trying to clean it up a bit, the acetate, because it's got a bit dusty I've been doing other work here with sanding plastic and stuff. So what we need to do is make the acetate fit on this panel here, but what we don't want to do is cover up these holes, because what I'm going to do, where you can see you've got these tiny holes in locations on here, I'm going to be putting switches in there, little toggle switches, and I'm going to use some 0.3 nickel silver rod, just put it through from behind, glue it in, and then cut it off at the front to the right length. So I don't really want to go blocking those holes up. And then we've also got these 2 holes here where the fuel cut goes, and we've got another hole here for something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the acetate fit around those holes so I don't block them up. So obviously the first thing to do is make a template. So if I draw around this is the easiest way to do it. I mean, it may seem long-winded to you, but I think it's the easiest way to do it. And if you mark basically the holes that you don't want to cover up, now I'm going to put a line there and a line there that shows where that one is. I'm going to mark there, mark there, mark there, and mark there. Oh, I did that one, didn't I? So basically, looking at that, I need my acetate to come down here, come down here. Now I can see that I need it to be there, so it's going to come down along like this, and then it's going to come, I shall leave it down to that corner and take it up there, and then across here. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just making sure that I've got acetate covering the gauges, but not actually covering any of the areas where I want to put the switches through. So basically, you can see there, I'll have a corner to line it up on down here. And what I'll do now is I'll cut that out so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, and we'll see how it looks. So basically now that should cover all of those gauges, but leave the areas clear where I want to put a pin through. Now we can see here I've blocked that one, so I just need to trim it back slightly on there. So I'll take a bit off of there, a bit off of there. And there we go. So that should do us great. I'll take a little bit off the top of there. Okay, so what I need to do is actually, this is slightly bigger all round, so what I'm going to do is just take a tiny little slither off the side. Let's get my rule. And it's easier to get the template right in the first place rather than have to mess around afterwards. And that was slightly on an angle like that. So let's do that there. And now when I push this into that corner, and there you can see the acetate is going to cover all the gauges. If I need to add a bit there, the acetate is going to cover all the gauges, but it won't cover any of the holes. So then what I can do is take my template here, and what I'm going to do is put some tape on it, and then what I'll do, just to make things easier for you guys to, in fact, no, I'll just come from a corner. So I'm going to come from that corner that I need. And if I hold this up to the light, I can see the acetate through it. In fact, it's easier to do it this way around. Just push that into that corner like so. Just tape that on like that. And there we go. So now I know that what I'll do is I'll cut all this side out first. Come down, straight down there, straight down there, straight along there, along there, along the top. And if you remember, I'm just going to check that's all come right. Yep. If you remember, I put that line because I need to come further over, so I'm going to come over to there now. And then the final cut, as they said in Pink Floyd, that should come across like that. And now that should just pop off of there. Separate the two. Yes, I've bitten all my nails off again. If you saw my video, I tried to make a bit of a joke about it, but believe me, I'm so annoyed with myself. And there we go. So now that should, when we put that in that corner, we should have glazing over all of the gauges. But nothing over those holes. I'm not worried about these here because I don't think they were glazed anyway. And there we go. There you can see it. You can see the, if I catch it in the light, you can see they've got a nice glass effect on the gauges, which is far better than having a blob of varnish in there, because you always get that kind of beveled look when you put the varnish in, whereas this is dead flat, just like the glass that it's trying to emulate. So there we go. We've also got the holes to line up here, so you can see these holes are all lined up and the glazing's in place. So what I can do, in fact, I'm going to check my references. I'm not sure if they would have been, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not sure if those four across the top would have been glazed or not. I'm going to check my references and then I'll come back. Okay, so in reality, those four across the top were like raised fuses or something anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I might put some varnish in there because I want to get that raised look to it, so we'll see. So now what I need to do is put this on here. What I'm going to do is purposely fit it outside, so it's like that. It's difficult to show you guys how to do this because it's also very, very small. And then I'm going to hold the top panel on onto the back panel, and what I can do, I can see through these holes, these two holes, one there, one there, those two holes at the top. What I'm doing is lining it up so I can see through them like that. I don't know if you can see that, but lining them up so I can see through those holes, and that way I know that I'm perfectly lined up. What I could do is get a drill, a small drill, and stick it in there, or a pin or something, or maybe even a cocktail stick. That'd be too big, a cocktail stick. There's a small piece of plastic rod here. Maybe I could use that. It's not too big. It's not too big, it's perfect. So that's got that one lined up. Okay, so now I know that it's all lined up, and now what I can do is push. That's all covered in dust again. Push this up through here into the gap like so, and just push it in until that corner is lined up perfectly, that bottom right hand corner. I hope you can see what I'm doing here, guys, because it's so difficult to film. So what I'm trying to do is just get this piece of acetate squared up and lined up on that bottom corner, and then I know that I'm in the right place and all the glazing is taken care of. Now, as you can see, I've got this piece of plastic rod through that hole, so I know that's perfectly lined up. If I make sure we're lined up there, and then what I've got is a pair of tweezers here that naturally close, they're reverse tweezers, and I've put some masking tape around one jaw so that it doesn't scratch the paint. So I can just put that on there like so, and that'll hold this side down. And then all I need to do is get some super glue on my little RB Tools glue looper and just run some glue up that edge. Let the capillary action pull it in. And then I'm just going to leave that to go off, and then all I'll do is I'll move to the other side, clamp that side down, glue it the same, and basically just carry on like that. So that's how you do it. And I think you'll agree that that looks a lot better than any pre-coloured photo. That's just popped apart because I don't have glue in there. But that looks better than any you know, sort of pre-printed, pre-painted photo etch. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I'll go on and get this all glued together now, and I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, and there we go. That's the engineer's panel done. I don't know why the lighting is so bad. Sorry, but there we go. That's the engineer's panel done. If I can catch it in the light, you'll see, just as you would in the real life, you get the reflection off the glass. So, but bearing in mind, when this is in the aircraft, you're going to be sort of looking at it like that. So you're not really going to see a lot of it anyway. But it's there and it's beautiful. I suppose when you look across the pilot's seat, you'll kind of see it on that angle. But yeah, I mean, it's lovely. And just to compare, here's the Edard version of the same thing, and I think we can agree that, you know, one is a lot nicer than the other. So that's that bit. Now let's look at the main instrument panel. There's a little section here you have to fold down. So what I've done, I've got my little Tamiya bending pliers, put that across there like that, and then just bent it down so I keep that nice square. What you want to do is keep that square edge on the bottom there. If you just try and bend it down, you'll probably bend the whole thing over, but you want a positive L section. And then what will happen there, if I just get the main instrument panel, which is what I've done, I've taped everything to the packet. I'm just going to give this a quick tweak to straighten it out because it's slightly bowed. And then that will go over there like so. You can see, remember I painted those the red around those dials, and then the same here. I haven't got the acetate in there even yet, but you can see we've got that same glossy effect. So yeah, there we go. And then that comes through there. That's going to have to be hand painted or mask it and airbrush it. And then the kit compass goes on there, and you get a new decal. Well, you don't get a decal at all in the kit, so you get a decal with this set to go on there. Or you could use, if you've got the Edard set, there's a radar in there, but the trouble with the compass, should I say, the trouble with that one, you can see it's out of register. So there we go, guys. So I've done the blind flying panel, that one there. So that one's going to sit on the instrument panel like so. So you can see you get a proper 3D effect with this. So with those two bits removed from the plastic part and glued on, it's all coming together. Right, so moving on to the main instrument panel, you can see I've painted that now, and I've fitted the kit supplied compass on there. I've put mine offset to one side. To be honest, when I looked at reference pictures, it looked like the real thing was slightly bigger in real life, but it's sort of hidden out of the way down in the corner of the fuselage, so I'm not too worried about it. I've put it to one side just because that's how it looked in a reference picture I saw, and also in some of the reference pictures I saw, this cutout was a different shape. In fact, if you look at the Edard instrument panel, they've done it sort of more of an oval shape. So I don't know, and I'm not sure if this thing was actually removable and just, you know, put back on a ball, if that's English, or if that thing actually folded up or what. So that's on there like that anyway, and that's got to be painted grey now, and then put the decal on the top. When I was talking earlier about the clear acetate, you can see here, basically what I've done is I've cut it into, just to give you an idea there, I've cut it into different size pieces and glued it on so that the holes remain clear. These two holes here underneath these two little gauges there, pretty, you know, forget trying to uncover them, so I've just drilled them through anyway with a 0.35 drill. And yeah, so that's basically going to go onto this like that, the same as I've already showed you, and we're going to clamp that down and glue it together. There's a panel that goes over these four holes here, which I believe are the engine starts. Don't put that on, you'll see why in a minute, but yeah, don't fit that panel on. So there we go, guys. We've basically covered the general assembly of the whole set. I've gone on and actually put the other panels together. I haven't done this one yet. This is the what is it, IFF? I can't remember now, but basically I haven't done this yet because it sits on the top of the dashboard, the top of the instrument panel. You can see it here sitting on the top, and I don't really want to fit that on because it's just going to keep getting knocked off, so I'm not going to even put it together yet. But it is basically sorry, it's direction finding instruments, that's what they are. And it's just basically this here that sits on top of the dash, on top of the instrument panel. There's also a clock that should be next to it, but it's not in the set. And also because mine is a dam busters, I need to put another altimeter up here, or altimeter, however you want to say it, because on the dam busters version they put another altimeter above these so that the pilot, because he was always like, on his run, he was at 60 feet, so he didn't have to take his eyes off. He could actually just he could actually look at the altimeter while he was actually just look across rather than look down at the instrument panel. But then having said that, would the altimeter have shown 60 feet? I don't know. So anyway, so I'm going to get this glued together now, and then that will be the basic assembly done. Okay then, guys, so I've done this now. That's all glued together, and you can see there how great it looks when you catch it in the light. You get the glass look on the lenses. As I said earlier, there's a panel here which is designed to go on here. Don't fit that on yet, you'll see why in a minute. Well, you'll see why later. In fact, I'll tell you, basically what we've got here is we've got four red buttons within those four holes. So my plan is to, once this is glued to the instrument panel here, is to drill through those holes and then get some plastic rod, radius the end of it off and stick it in from behind through the instrument panel, and that will give the impression of a separate button rather than just a stuck on piece of plastic. And the reason I say leave that off now is so that when you drill it, it doesn't matter if you miss and scratch it or whatever, because you're going to be gluing that piece on over it anyway. So so there's that bit there. There's also a hole here, there, which is just above it, and that's for like it looks like a sort of master switch or something here. So the other thing you'll see I've done here in my references, it looks like behind the compass is kind of cut out and beveled away. So I've cut the instrument panel away, glued some plastic card to the back and along the bottom, and then filled that hole up with sprue goo, and now that will dry back to a sort of radiused kind of bowl, which it looks like is behind the compass. And the references I've got on just doing searches on Google, it looks like it's sort of like a white bowl, if you like, behind the compass. So I don't quite know what's going on there, but you can see, I mean, it's not dry yet, but you can see the kind of effect you're going to get with that there behind that bowl. So I also need to look at if I need to cut these holes out here behind the blind instrument panel, but that one's just going to sit straight on top of there anyway. The other thing I think I'm probably going to have to do is put some masking agent over all these gauges and then give it a coat of varnish and perhaps a wash and some touch-ups and stuff. But I think really for this video that is about that, because I can do a whole other video now on how to really go to town on this and start adding knobs and buttons and switches and stuff. So I'm going to call that a day, and then we'll do another video looking at, because I realise that people's attention span is not that huge. I think the average watch time on my videos is about 6 minutes. So I don't want to just sort of make this one massive long video that covers everything. So what I'll do is I'll carry on with this now. I'll carry on filming, and I'll go through how I'm going to add some buttons and switches and stuff, and then using paint and washes sort of really to bring it out a bit better. But this is basically, you've seen now how to basically assemble this, and obviously, I mean, you don't need to see this. This is just basically on here. What you're going to do is glue that onto that, and then that onto that, and then put a decal on it, put that on the top, and then that goes on there, and then they sit up on top of the instrument panel on the plastic panel. Again, if you get the Edard set, you get that as a piece of thin photo etch, so it's showing it bent. But the Edard set, when you start comparing the likes of this and the other panels to the Edard set, forget it. And also this one is accurate for a B3 Lancaster. The Edard set isn't, and the engineer's panel isn't accurate either. So there we go. Thanks for watching this. Hope you've sort of picked up something from this, and I hope you go and get yourself this set for your Lancaster, because it really does make a massive difference. I mean, when you look at that there, you know, I mean, it's not even finished, and you can just see how good it looks. But I'm going to go away now and get on with this, and I'll put another video up, part 2, which will be finishing it off and adding some detail and stuff. So I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.